You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Tuesday, November 16th, 2020. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we are going to continue our Jesus series by examining a fundamental part of everything that Jesus said and did while he was on earth. And it has to do with this little word, and that word is truth. Now, in order to really get closer to Jesus, to build your life around him and to follow him, we need to believe one thing, that Jesus is the truth. He not only testifies to the truth, he tells us what is true, but he also is the truth. Now, this is so important for us to understand because we live in a world that tells us something very different. It not only doesn't tell us that Jesus is the truth, it tells us something even worse. It tells us that truth doesn't exist. Now, this is a lie that Satan has been trying to get us to believe for a very, very long time. In fact, if you think back to that story of when Jesus is standing before Pontius Pilate, just before he has been sentenced to crucifixion, Jesus says that he has come into the world to bear witness to the truth. He says this to Pontius Pilate. Do you remember what Pontius Pilate says in response? He says, "What is truth?" In other words, how can you testify to truth when truth doesn't exist? Now, this is something that our world continues to echo. We might not say it exactly that way. Instead, we would say something like, well, each of us can decide what is true for ourselves. In other words, we are told the lie in the world that each person has their own individual truth. I'm here to tell you that that is a lie. That is a lie. And it is a lie that comes straight from Satan, because Satan's biggest desire is that we fail to see and love Jesus. And the moment that we say there is no truth, then of course we won't believe that Jesus is the truth. So I know this is some deep theology. So the first thing that we need to talk about on this point is, well, okay, but what is truth? How can we understand the power that truth plays in our life? Well, if we look back in the Bible, and the way that truth is described both in the Old Testament and New Testament, they have two powerful ways of describing truth. In the Old Testament, which is written in Hebrew, they describe truth as a rock. In fact, we hear stories about if you want to build a house that lasts or a life that lasts, should you build it on sand or should you build it on a rock? Well, you should build it on something strong and sure and constant. A rock. If you build it on something like sand, the sand will move and your house will fall down or your life will fall down. So just like a rock, truth is something that we know will remain. It will be constant. We can stand upon it confidently. That is Jesus Christ. Now, in the New Testament, which was written in Greek, they talk about truth with another cool metaphor. They talk about truth as being light. Light. Now, think about the way that light plays in your life. Imagine trying to go through the world without any light at all. The sun doesn't come up, electricity doesn't work, you can't get the candles lit, just trying to feel your way through the world, not seeing people's faces and expressions, not seeing the beauty of nature, right? Light is what enables us to make sense of everything, to understand everything around us. Just as Jesus is the truth that we can stand upon confidently, Jesus is the way that we understand the world. Without Jesus, we're in darkness. We can be in a relationship with someone and not understand who they really are through the truth of Jesus Christ. We can be living our life or working a job and not understand the value of what we do and what we think and what we say through a relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, I know that this is some deep, deep stuff, but we need to know that Jesus tells us the truth, shows us the truth, and is the truth. He is the foundation, the sure, steady, confident rock that we stand on. And he is also the light that allows us to see and understand the entire world around us. So the rock and the light. Now, as with all things, we are so lucky because it can be hard to understand how does knowing Jesus is the truth really enable me to follow him, to do what he asks me to do. Well, we have some incredible examples. So we are going to be looking at the 4 saints that celebrate their feast days this week and talking about how knowing, believing, and living that Jesus is the truth is what enabled them to do and be great things for God. So this real belief and foundation in the fact that Jesus is and was and always will be the truth is what transformed them. So I'm excited to dig into that today. But for today, because I know this can be a little scary to depart from all the things the world's telling us and to live in a completely different way, I want you to use the words that Jesus gave St. Faustina and to say them 3 times so that you can truly dive into this week's journey. Those words that we're saying today are simply, Jesus, I trust in you. So begin this week saying those 3 words 3 times boldly and with full confidence that Jesus is the truth.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
Just one more thing. As we approach Advent, I encourage you to make a plan now for how your family will spend Advent prayerfully waiting for Jesus Christ. We have 2 great resources to do this all together in a beautiful way based in Scripture. One is the Jesse Tree, which will take you through key characters from the Old Testament. And the other is called the Nativity Trail, which uses the Psalms to help you journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem with Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. These are both available now, both as a physical booklet and also as a digital download. You can find more about these on our website, which you'll find links to in the notes for this podcast episode.